All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? And yes, I did go ahead and change my thumbnail. I thought I needed to kind of spice it up, change things up a little bit, but the content or the delivery for this live stream is going to be exactly the same. I know we're getting very, very close to winter break, so I'm sure many of you have some math questions. It's very, very difficult, though, to get to all the math questions that I can. So I just want to apologize because I always want to over deliver for those of you that are on these live streams and that are submitting your questions. But it kind of made me think, like, what did I used to do, or how, even when I was teaching, I would still do these live streams. And the difficulty that I have now is that I don't really know what my schedule is always going to look like on a Sunday because obviously I have kids at home. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to be, you know, how do I know when exactly I'm going to be live? Because what I used to do was create a post and then you guys could submit the questions. And then whatever questions were submitted before the live stream, those are the ones that I did. And so I kind of like this 1 o'clock, either 1 to 3 p.m. kind of time slot. So I think what I'm going to try to do is try to stay within that and then do the same thing, schedule the live probably on a Friday. And then if you submit your questions ahead of that time, then those are the ones I'm going to be able to get to. And then I do have some other ideas for additional questions for those of you guys that join up on the stream. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. If you do have a math question, then you guys can simply go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and go and submit it. I'll try to go ahead and do my best. But what I always like to do on these live streams first, before I get into any math, is actually just answer the questions that you guys have in front of me. So if you have any just general questions, advice, or anything that you want to talk about on your personal situation, then feel free to put it down below and I'll be more than happy to answer your guys' questions. Let me just go ahead and close down some of my additional tabs that I've been working. So this is obviously my office, even though I have like a background. This is where I make my videos, and right across from there is going to be my light board. So I just turn off all the lights, and that's where I make my my videos. And so this is where I do my work. So I had some open tabs from when I was working on stuff, and I'm about to submit 100 questions for you to answer. I know it's so bad. It's like my problem is I just don't have the current capacity to be able to answer everybody's question as much I would like. And so what I'm trying to do is designate some times where I'm getting up there. So what you guys, let me give you guys a little bit of heads up. So I really do like answering questions. To be honest with you, that's probably one of my favorite things that I do, is because that's kind of like my interaction with students in a say, for you guys to be able to help you guys out. And one thing I did also last year was I had a couple students that I took on for some private tutoring, and I love that. The problem with the private tutoring, the problem with answering the questions is it's just time intensive. It takes a lot of my time out of the way. And one of the problems I've had with on my main channel was I want to be able to creating my content stream. So therefore I don't have to be, spending each and every day making videos. Cause obviously, as you can imagine, it can be tiresome doing, math videos each and every day in the same office. And obviously there's some other things that, it kind of took me away from doing the YouTube in that sense. So it was difficult for me to, focus so much on YouTube. But I will say I have been making videos, and I'm hoping that next week I'll be able to make a little bit more. So therefore, beginning of the year, I'll be able to increase my upload time or increase the number of uploads per week, as well as have a system down in place where therefore I can go and add more time to actually do a more Q&A live streams for you guys, and do a Q&A live streams, and then also maybe possibly even do some private tutoring. We'll see. I don't want to add into anything, but I did want to let you guys know about that. Those are some things that I am looking into. All right. So now where did my screen go? There we go. All right, let's go and pop up your guys' questions that we have here. Yeah, okay. Well, hey, you are first. Joe says, do you have any tips for solving related rates problems in calculus? No, I wouldn't say anything specific to calculus regarding like with related rates. And it's been a long time, so I can't really give you any specific details. with the related rates, I will say though, a lot of the related rates problems, you're going to see some patterns. And I think the most important thing is to continuously be doing more examples of problems with the related rates, because once you start doing a problem, it might be difficult, right? And then if you do a secondary problem that's very, very similar to it, you start seeing the patterns. And obviously not all related rates problems are exactly the same, right? There's variations to it. But I think with the related rates, I think with word problems, whatever may be the case, there's a lot of patterns that are going to be similar. And so my just best advice that I can give you to working with related rates is, once you know the fundamentals, the basic idea of how to approach a solid word problem, you're looking for to continue that same framework. And there's going to be variations from problem to problem. So the more examples that you expose yourself to, the more problems that you work through, even problems you're like, I know how to do this, go through the motions. And I'm telling you, the more problems that you do, the more you're going to build your confidence, and the more that you will know how to approach a problem that maybe comes up on a test or an exam that you've never seen before. But if you have all of this experience of working through so many examples, you'll be able to apply that to this problem that you've never seen before. No, I do not teach in the class. Well, I guess what it means by teaching. So I don't teach inside the classroom anymore. I hate when that happens. So I don't teach. So no, I do not teach inside the classroom anymore. I taught for 14 years. And then I believe, I keep on forgetting this date. I think it was 2022 is when I stepped away. So, or maybe it was 2021. No, yeah, it was the end of 2022, 21-22 school year, I believe. Yes, that was my last year. So it's been bittersweet. I miss the classroom. I really, really do. But I also, one of the reasons why I wanted to step away, or one of the reasons why I did step away, is because I wanted to focus more on doing videos like this for YouTube. And you can imagine, being a teacher, doing these live streams every single week, as well as like having kids, it became extremely busy. So my life became extremely busy. So stepping away from the classroom has allowed me to focus a little bit more on the content I'm creating, and to be able to make these videos for you guys. Can you define what Algebra 2 is? Well, I mean, Algebra 2, I don't know. I've never really had to define Algebra 2, but I would think about it like, I mean, at least as it's a lot currently taught, is going to be a summary of a lot of, I don't even know, I'm just going to badger this definition of, I've never had to think about this. Algebraic processes and rules of dealing with functions, different types of functions and their properties. Yeah. And then, but obviously Algebra 2 now, we even get into probability and statistics. We get into trigonometry. So we get in a wide variety of things. And not even all, not everything is going to be functions, but it's a very big variety course. So I think it'd be very hard to define. But I'm sure there's a good definition out there. To be honest, I don't know why I selected to define this, because I don't have a good response for you. Sorry. No, I don't have anything with that. It's been way too long since I taught calculus, so nothing comes off the top of my head as far as remembering with sigma notation, or at least remembering what to do for your question of that. Currently in college and taking applied linear algebra. Do you have any advice for this class or videos? No, but I remember taking linear algebra when I was in college, and it was difficult. I feel like my first real challenge that I had in math. I think a lot of it was the professor I had. He was very, very difficult and very, very rigid, where even my Calc 1 and Calc 2 courses were like difficult. I felt like my teachers were like normal humans, like were like relatable. And my linear algebra teacher was just, that typical math teacher that you think of, like this very nerdy guy, very rigid, like any little mistake, you always got, a mark down. And so it was difficult for me, going from those teachers that were kind of more friendly and much more like forgiving to somebody that was very, very strict and very, very well knew his stuff, but at sometimes couldn't really relate it to the normal people that were in the class. And so it was a difficult course. But I think the only advice I can give to you on that would be to, find people that you can work with on continuing class, find people that you can do the homework with, find people that you can study for the tests and the quizzes. I think that just always helps make a course go by a little bit more fun way. And then also you have people to rely on, and take advantage of office hours or tutoring, tutoring labs, wherever you can to get your questions answered. I'm an engineering major and I have to take Calc 2 and differential equations, and the math department at my school sucks. Having 80% of my grade based around tests, which of course which do you think is the hardest? Well, I took Calc 1 and Calc 2. I did not have to take a differential equations course for my major, but between Calc 1 and Calc 2, Calc 2 was more difficult for me. And then from what I've heard from other people, they'd probably agree with Calc 2. I think differential equations, as long as you have that good foundational base from Calc 1, Calc 2, then differential equations is not going to be too much more of a strain, for you. But again, just like anything, when I ask the question, like what's difficult, algebra 2 or geometry, like everybody kind of has different experiences. And like what I just mentioned, like sometimes your professor can, the professor that you have can't have an impact on if this course is going to be easy or hard. So I don't think I can give you a blanket answer that's automatically going to be true for your situation. But in my situation, Calc 2 was more difficult. And I've heard from a lot of people that as long as you have good foundation in the calculus series, Calc 1 and Calc 2, then differential equations is usually not too much more of a burden. Hey, Alaska, good to have you on. I have finals next week. I'm on the borderline and going from an A- to an A. Hope I do good. Well, best of luck. Study hard. But then remember also, don't be cramming at the final end. Make sure you have enough time to take a break, rest, relax, vision yourself doing great, get some good sleep, eat some good food, and best of luck. You have single-handedly saved my math grades. Thank you. Well, I really appreciate that. And I think what's really important is that even if you guys can say that I have helped you, I think it's really important that you understand that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys seeking out that extra knowledge. And I totally get the idea of struggling with math, either from your teacher or from your course. But from somebody that never had, like YouTube to go to when I struggled with math, I think it's really important that you understand that not everybody even seeks out, help. A lot of people, when they struggle with math, they just give up. They don't ask the questions. And so I'm very happy that my videos or my instructional content that I have made online has helped you out. I really do. But I also think it's very, very warming to me to know that, not only you guys let me know that I've helped you, but also the fact that you guys are continuously working. You're not giving up. You're asking, you're putting in the work, you're watching these videos. And I think it's a really good testament to all of you that do watch the videos and do put in that work, because no matter what your grade ends up being in mathematics, the way that you're going about learning math, the way that you're going about going through those struggles and seeking out the information is a very, very important trait that I really want you guys to hold dear and take for the rest of your life. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And kudos to you for putting in all the work. Emilio, I am about to take my pre-calculus final this Tuesday. Any advice? Well, I'll give you one thing that I used to say to all my pre-calculus students. Because when I would create a pre-calculus exam, which I always created a new one for every year. Actually, no, not for the exams, but for tests I did. But anyways, I would always create problems. I don't know the exact percentages, but let's just say roughly about 20% would be hard problems, 20% would be really easy problems, and then 60% were like medium, right? So medium. So I always try to have like a scale of difficulty. And one thing I always told students is always do the easiest problems first. Always don't just do there's no rule that you have to do question 1, question 2, question 3, unless obviously you're taking your exam online. But if you're not taking your exam online, everybody starts at question 1. Why? Just go through, find the problems that you know how to do first. Then do the problems that are the medium problems. And then last but not least, do the problems that are the hard. The reason why I give this advice is because, one, you need to kind of prime your brain. As you start going through problems that you know how to do, you get a little bit more of confidence, right? And also, you get those kind of synapses in your brain start to working again. Things are starting to remember all this information that you've been studying, everything you've gone throughout the year. So I think it's really important to start with those basic problems, those easy ones that give you a little bit of confidence, kind of bring up your memory about everything. and then you work through the more medium problems. And at the very, very end, if you don't have enough time, then you didn't get to answer all the hard questions. Bang. At least that's a lot better than not having enough time and not answering the easiest questions, right? But more likely than not, you're going to have a little bit more time. The reason why I don't like doing the hard problems at the beginning is because what happens with hard problems? They make our brain think, right? They make our brain hurt. And a lot of times we spend more time on hard problems at the beginning than we should, right? An exam is timed. You need to make sure you're spacing out how much time you have for each problem. So we don't want to waste like 10 minutes on one very, very difficult problem at the beginning of the test, right? You're wasting up a lot of your brain's energy, and sometimes that can ruin the whole test for you. So simple advice, do the easiest problems first, then the medium difficulty, and then last but not least, do the more difficult ones. And if you have a little bit more time after that, then even go back through and check some of the answers for mistakes. I just want to say I really appreciate your videos. Well, thank you so much. How's life? Life is getting much better. My kids are getting a little bit older. I don't have an infant anymore, which I feel like for the last 8 years, I've always had an infant. Or an infant or a very toddler. So now my kids are growing up. And so that's kind of a good feeling. And it's been a little bit difficult, a little bit rough trying to do with the channel and and working on some other properties I've been doing. But I feel really good. I feel much more energized going through on these live streams. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for the new year. As long as it's an is sine, cosine, tangent different for an isosceles right triangle? Yes, they are going to be different functions. If you just want to think of like what the functions mean, if you have an isosceles right triangle, oh, I see. Isosceles, they're going to be not scaling. For an isosceles right triangle, yes, sorry. Sine and cosine are going to be exactly the same. Because if you think about an isosceles right triangle, you have your hypotenuse, which is the largest leg. And then you have your two other legs, right? If it's an isosceles, then those two legs are exactly the same. So if you're given an angle, not the right angle, but any other angle, one of those legs will be called the adjacent side, and the other angle will be called the opposite side. Well, if it's isosceles, those two legs are the same. That means the opposite is the same as the adjacent. And then remember, all the trigonometric functions mean, like in reference to that angle, sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is going to be adjacent over our hypotenuse. Well, since opposite and adjacent are exactly the same, then your sine and cosine function will be exactly the same. For tangent, though, remember tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that would be 1 since they're always the same. I'm working as a TA for my old math teacher. I love it. And I'm grading students' assessments. And honestly, if I can't understand their work, I just move on and don't even consider a partial credit. LOL. That's so cool. I wish, man, I never had my student. Well, I never had I never had teacher assistants. But I always had I never had my student. I always had students that were, I don't know, would be like seniors or juniors that would test my stuff. But anyways, you bring something up that I think is really important that I'd always like talk to my students about, that I think is really important for you guys to hear. And that is the fact of like, you're right. When you're submitting in work, this is a representation of your work, of you. And some people might think of it as like trivial, like, it doesn't really matter. And I agree to the point of the fact that like, I would still give students, credit, even if they had sloppy handwriting or I couldn't read it. A lot of times I would give them the opportunity. I didn't want to ding them mathematically on their grade if I knew that they had understanding, but their presentation was bad. However, I had the conversations with students about presentation because I think it is really important, especially as you're getting older in high school or even into university. You need to start being aware of that, right? If you're going to a job interview, you're not going to show up in a job interview in your pajamas. No, you're going to present yourself the best possible way that you can. Right. And when you submit a paper, to your English teacher, you're not giving her a chicken scratch piece of paper and pencil with all these writings like scratched out. No, you're having it nice, typed out, has a nice format, and it maybe has a cover letter. Like, it's nice and beautiful. Here is my presentation. So why do we think that just mathematics should be any different? Mathematics is beautiful. But again, when we're doing our work, we want to provide it in a proper presentation. And all I'm really saying for on that is I always told students, like, when you're taking a test or when you're doing a quiz, get a stinking scratch piece of paper to do all your work. I am a messy person doing math. I'm scratching all over. I have papers everywhere because I always need to have something in front of me to like do like a sidebar, example. That's fine. Do your work on a separate sheet of paper. But when you are presenting something to me that you want me to grade, and you're right. And I told students that, make sure that that work is proper and clean and presentable, because you're right. I remember there'd be times at like 11 o'clock at night, I'd pass back students quizzes and I'd be like, guys, you know, check your work, check your grading. If you didn't understand my grading, or if you want to argue with me on how I graded yours, please do it. Because you're right. At 11 o'clock at night when I was grading papers, sometimes I'd be so tired. I'm sure I might have graded your work harder than if somebody had clean, nice handwriting that I could read. And I don't mean to be biased in that regard. I always try to give people an opportunity to make sure, their grade was based on their mathematical work and not just how their presentation was. But I'm human and I'm tired and I can be mad and frustrated, when people present something that I'm like, what the heck is this? Where is your answer? So yeah, I think it's always important to take pride in your work and take pride in the presentation that you're providing. So I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with what you said. But I think obviously it depends on the age and the expectations for each class. Hi, Mr. McLogan. I'm an IB diploma program, and I used to watch your math videos. Well, I used to. Okay. Could you cover DP product math topics? I'm not sure what DP is, so maybe that's why you don't watch my videos. I know it's tough qualification, but I'm sure you can explain the topics. Well, if you have any like guides or anything like that, feel free to submit them at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll try to take a look and see what I can do. Again, as I mentioned to that, I think it just all depends on the expectations, right? So depends on the expectations of the course. I think the age of the students and everything else. If it's like an entry level course and, kids have to pass the course, I think it just comes into having that. I always think of like teaching as like, you can be as harsh as you can, but you have to be able to, and I always like was strict. I felt like in a regard, or I had high standards. Here's the thing. You can have high standards. And I always think it's very important to hold your students to high standards. However, you have to give them guidance. You just can't say, here's the high standard, go ahead and do it. You have to show them how to reach it, and you have to continuously give student guidance. If you want them to reach the high standards, you have to be able to be willing to assist them. So I don't think it's fair just to say, here's the high standard and give them no resources or support to get there. But I think if you're going to hold them to a high standard, then just make sure you have, opportunities for them to be successful. Hi, my name is Dana. I am in math 10. I'm going to be 50 in February, and I'm just going back to school. It's great. I love math, but I'm struggling with functions and relations. My mark going into final is 78. Well, hey, Dana. The best of luck. You're right there on the 78. So I know it's hard not to say, don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. But you're almost there. And it's kind of important, right? And yeah, if you have any math questions, feel free. If you have a question on functions, happy to submit it at brianmclogan.com/Q&A. And I'm happy to see if I can maybe help round the corner on some of those things with functions. But I think, just keep on working through it. Just keep on reviewing things, focus. Sometimes you just need a little bit more experience for things to be able to click. And especially, you've been away from math for a long time. And so, I think it's important to just give yourself a little bit of grace. Things are not going to, you're not going to be able to recollect a lot of information as easily as maybe a student that took the previous course the year before. It's been a while. Give yourself a little bit of grace, but then also know that sometimes you might need to be putting in a little bit more work to remember some of this stuff, or to hone those, math skills that you haven't used in a really long time. So, put in the work, give yourself a little bit of grace, and do the best or have. I wish you I can't even talk. I wish you the best of luck on your exam, and I know you're going to do great. Ryan, thank you for all the help you provided us. If you could say, what is your best way to study mathematics and become good at it? what strategies or routine would you do? So one thing I mention all the time, I'm like a broken record on this. You need to be doing math every day. Do math every single day. Even if you don't have homework, do spiral review, but do math every single day. I think it's also important to do math, you know, ideally like right after school. So therefore your brain is a little bit more fresh. Anytime that you start doing other things, your motivation winds. And I can't even tell you how many times I've been doing math at like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to do something that's going to excite me because I don't want to do this right now. I figured out the best way for me to do math, like especially college. I'd go right from my courses, or right when I was done with classes, I'd go right to the tutor lab. And that's when I'd do my work. I would not go home until I had my math work done. So I think that's beneficial to have a routine where you're constantly doing math. I think the next thing is create a cheat sheet of always summarizing all the important things that you've been learning that you're going through. And for every chapter, you should have a cheat sheet. And then that's something that, rather than having to, when you need to review or study for a certain chapter, rather than going through all of your notes, your tests, your quizzes, your homework, you have everything kind of summarized on a cheat sheet. So I think that's really important. And then last but not least, I think you should, make sure when you're practicing problems, make sure that you go through problems that you struggle with, problems that you got wrong. Make sure that you understand how you got them wrong and fix them and go over them. Go back over all the problems you got wrong, cover up the answer or cover up the correct solution and try to do them again. This is something that I had to do multiple times to really reinforce my brain into understanding how to work through the problems. And then also, try to challenge yourself. I think finding a study group or a study partner, somebody that can be asking you questions and stuff like that, or that you can ask questions back and forth and really challenge each other, I think is also very, very helpful. So best of luck on your exam. Why is rational expression so confusing? Well, I'm not really sure exactly in your scenario, but I can tell you from students that I've taught, there's a couple of reasons that rational expressions are confusing. One is factoring. Students don't like the factoring, and students don't like the factor. And guess what happens a lot with rational expressions or rational equations? There's a lot of factoring that's going to go on. So if you are weak in factoring, then rational expressions and equations is going to be difficult. A lot of times also students have trouble visualizing the graph and, visualizing the asymptotes and the holes and stuff like that. And that's not always going to be, I wish I could, I got to turn that. I wish always, or I think with other functions, a little bit easier to kind of identify some, what transformations or what's happening with the graph, whereas rational expressions, when we're dealing with asymptotes and holes, is not always as easily visible. But I'd definitely say that factoring is one of the biggest things that hold up students with rational expressions. I'm struggling with trigonometry. Any advice to be professional at it and to stand out? Well, I'm not really sure where you're struggling with the trigonometry and what you mean by be professional and stand out. I think if anything, if you're going to stand out, work harder than the other students, put in that extra work. I think somebody asked the question before. God, I got to turn off these. My keyboard's not working right now. Sorry, my keyboard's not working. And so I can't turn down the volume. And of course my sister is in the hospital. So my family is going back and forth with, just text message and stuff. She's okay. So, but I'm just annoyed that people keep on, well, not annoyed. I mean, obviously it's very important for her, but, I can't turn off the notifications or my sound. There we go. Actually, come on. Sorry, I was just trying to figure this out. I don't know. Why won't you update? So annoying. All right, we'll go then. So I'm struggling with trigonometry. Any advice to be professional and to stand out? I'm not really sure what you mean by professional or to stand out. But one thing I mentioned in a previous live stream when students were talking about, do I need to study above what my teacher gives to me? And my simple answer to that was yes. Not everything your teacher gives you is going to be everything that you need to be successful in the course. Plan to go above and beyond. So if you're competing, and I don't want you to be comparing yourself to other students, but if you need to stand above the playing field, do more than what is expected. That is the easiest way to be able to stand out. Do more than what is expected. So hopefully that advice can be helpful for you. I mean, I don't know. There's so many majors out there. Who knows? That's good. What? As a video? I can make one of those. That'd be a good idea. Oh, come on, dude. Why can't I get to you guys fast enough? All right, Samuel, we don't need to spam. I'll get to your things. Thank you for teaching. Hey, Izids, how are you? Yeah, Sam, you're in timeout. I got him. Sorry, I was a little bit beyond my chat, so I got Samuel on there. No more Samuel. Well, he can come back, but he's on timeout. Why am I doing expressions with exponents inside the cube root and radical in my Algebra 1 book? I'm not really sure. Yes, it happens. I recently took a test over rational expressions, came out. Yes, but hopefully it felt good after that. Nicole, I'm using your videos to help study logarithms right now. Thanks to you, I am doing so much better than doing it on my own. Well, awesome. Keep on putting in the work. Make sure you also practice some of the problems, maybe stop the problems, try some of the problems on your own. But I'm so happy my videos can help you out. I had to drop from school due to funds. How do I go about studying on my own to be ahead of the game when I'm stable to go to school again? I don't have my channel designed as far as like an educational like framework, but I would just continually doing self-study. I mean, there's courses as well online that you can find for a reasonable amount that you can kind of follow as a self study, and I think that would probably be your best element. To do that. And then if you have further things where you need additional assistance or help, then reach out to the community on YouTube or my videos to assist you from on there. But yeah, I would definitely, look for like a course that you can do that would be that's designed for self-study and go from there. Awesome. So happy to help you out. Well, that is very, very cool. I'm very happy to know I have some Canadian friends. So you want me to make an Algebra 1 guide? Well, if you have stuff or questions or like a study guide that you want me to address on that, then feel free to submit that at brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and I can maybe make an Algebra 1 guide. Mr. Villiger, I took a trig test and I really struggled with graphing different representations of polar coordinates and graphing special polar graphs. Do you have any videos or recommendations to improve? I don't have any videos like specifically on to improve those. The special representations, can be difficult. It's one of those things that does confuse students on that. So I totally get it. I think that, as far as like the trig graphs, I mean, when I did that, we always just use calculators or relied to that on calculators. So I would, I would just make sure that you practice going through the motions. So therefore you're comfortable with it. But yeah, I don't have anything specific for you exactly on there. I think just practicing some examples, making sure you're understanding where the confusing parts are, and go from best from there. If you have any math questions or anything you want me to do, then go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I'll go ahead and take a look. What is the best way to study? Man, I just answered that question. It's not your fault, but hopefully I didn't see this till answer, so maybe I got to it. But I think you just need to make sure you set aside enough days and time for you to be able to study for that exam. Then do your math every single day. Do math problems. Redo the problems that you got wrong. Redo the problems that you got right. Make sure you take all your definitions, theorems, and examples, put them on a sheet of paper as a cheat sheet, and constantly be reviewing that. But just do math every single day. Don't try to cram 4 hours before the test. That is not a way for success. Yeah, I get it. I hate graphing rational equations by hand as well. I don't think it's very efficient. So I mostly wanted my students to kind of understand the key points like y-intercept, x-intercept, asymptotes, holes. I think if you know those main things, like that's most important. Otherwise, we're more likely just going to rely on graphing technology outside of that. I'm planning to study geometry on my own, but I don't know if I know everything in Algebra 1 because I missed some important topics for Algebra 1 because I couldn't really find it on websites. Well, to be honest with you, I think for a majority of students, if you have a decent background in Algebra 1, then you should be okay with geometry. There's some Algebra 1 concepts that are going to translate into geometry, but I don't think there's anything groundbreaking that you can't easily kind of catch up on. Algebra 1, kind of like Algebra 2, has kind of turned into these courses where not only do we just focus on the algebra, but we also teach a ton of extra topics that are not going to be used in geometry at all. So while there is some very, very important concepts in Algebra 1 that you are going to want to make sure you have a foundation for before going into geometry, I don't think everything that is taught in Algebra 1 is going to be necessary for geometry. So I think you might be okay. Again, this is a blanket statement. Don't don't hold me to it. But I think you'll be okay. Maria Lazo, after 10 years, I took my first math class and it was pre-calc, I assume. I took your final pre-calc review test video and it helped me. I passed the class with an A, but I worked many hours a day for the semester. Well, that's so awesome. And yeah, I know that that review even had I was actually looking at that not too long ago. And I think I made some mistakes, but it's like 4 hours long. So of course my brain is going to make some stupid mistakes. So I apologize for that. But obviously that didn't matter because you were smart enough to overlook them and to see where I made me make my mistakes and you didn't make the same mistakes. So I'm so happy to hear that video was beneficial to you. And I'm so happy to hear that it wasn't my video. It was you putting in the work. And I'm happy to be a part of your success. And I'm also happy to hear that you went back to school after 10 years and take that class. Like, that's awesome. That's hard for a lot of people to do. So congratulations on putting the work and congratulations on your success. Minus factorize. How do you fully factorize trinomials? You're going to want to submit that to my link above, and then I can maybe take a look at that. Hello, can you give me advice on how to self-study math? I'm thinking about studying calculus. It's really hard to focus on studying and focus also. I keep forgetting what I've learned in 2 days. I don't want to sugarcoat this, but self-study might be a difficult thing for you. Now, obviously, I don't know your situation, and maybe your only option is to self-study, but I have a difficulty paying attention. I have a difficulty remembering things after 2 days. And I can tell you from my life experience, I could never do a self-study course. I need that teacher, that guidance. I need somebody kind of telling me what to do day in, day out. So just from my experience and how I relate to you, I think that might be something for you difficult. And so a couple things that kind of compound that, if I'm going to be dishonest, I would buy or invest in like a online course, maybe invest in like a tutor, somebody to hold you accountable, for things you're remembering, things you're supposed to learn. Now, again, you don't have to pay for anybody. You don't have to pay for anything. I just find in my experience, whenever I went with like free help from a friend or, free information online, I just never was able to follow through with it. But when I invested in myself, when I actually paid money, I didn't want to waste that money. So it made me always put in that extra work because I didn't want that money to go for nothing. Okay. So I don't have anything to offer to you. So it's not a pitch for anything on mine as far as self-studying calculus. So I'm not trying to pitch any of my stuff. Because that's not what it's about. But I think know yourself, know what you need to do to be successful for the self-study. And in my opinion, that I feel has a very much similar situation as yours, I would look into, having some accountability from there. Reverend, hi, I'm a huge fan of your teaching style from Lexington. I took Calculus 1 as a high school sophomore and done with Calculus 3 as a junior. Wow. how is calculus 3 compared to calculus 1 and 2? I don't know. I never had to take it, actually. So I got my major in mathematics, but I never had to take a calc 3 or differential equations course. So don't know. But yeah, maybe put it down in the comments, or maybe some people in the comments that have taken calc 3 can give you their advice. Do you make 80,000 a month from this course stuff? No, not that much. So that'd be nice though. Maybe if you guys bought more of my sweatshirts, then no, I'm just joking. But yeah, no, that's I don't disclose any financial stuff, but no, nothing 80,000 from there. It's not as lucrative as makeup tutorials, put it that way, or selling like e-commerce stuff. My question is, what should I study geometry? I will get a math book for geometry, but I'll just want to know if there's really any important topics in Algebra 1, or I could save those for Algebra 2. Yeah, I would just focus on the stuff that's very algebra-based stuff. I'd have to go, I'd have to look at a certain algebra book that you're referring to, but I'd just focus on a lot of the algebra heavy stuff, especially like solving equations, systems of equations, exponents, the basic radicals, the basic stuff with that. Yes, I would just study sequences and series in Algebra 2 or in pre-calculus, wherever it comes into. Sorry to bother you. You're not bothering me. This is what I'm doing today. Within algebra, but my chance, do you have any videos in your video where you explain it? I don't, unfortunately. I mean, I have some like basic stuff, but I don't have any like good stuff in linear algebra. Like I just have stuff that I taught from like that'd be from like pre-calculus, on there. Like dot product stuff, or I don't have any matrices videos. I just never had to teach it. So even though I took linear algebra, I don't have anything, regarding that. So unfortunately, that is something I would like to expand to. I just don't have anything in my current library. So sorry. No, I don't. I mean, I have some basic stuff on discrete math, but yeah, I don't have anything good like modular mathematics or cryptography. All right, so let's go and see if you guys got any questions that have been submitted on the stream. I guess I shut down that tab. That stinks. So the square root of 24 is going to be 2 radical 6. Because if you break up the square root of 24 into 4 times 6, right? Because you'd agree 4 times 6 is 24. Then think about this. If you know that the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6, right? Because you can multiply, as long as the index is the same, you can multiply to radicands. So in this one, what we want to do is work backwards. So we say take 24 and say, all right, what 2 numbers can I rewrite that as, with 1 being a square number? Well, you could do 12 times 2, but 12 and 2, neither of those are squares. So that's why I chose 4 and 6. Because 4 is a square number. I can take the square root of 4, which is 2, and then I'm still left with 6 under the radical. So the square root of 24 is going to be a 2 radical 6. Starting calc this upcoming semester, any advice? Yeah, put in the work. Find a time that you can do math. Find the time that's going to work for you. Make sure you get a study group, study partner. Make sure you take advantage of office hours or your tutoring, sessions or tutoring lab. And just make sure you're putting in the work. I think sometimes calculus or even mathematics is kind of think of like being on the ocean. There's waves. Sometimes you're going to be like, I know this stuff. Like I'm getting good. I'm in a routine. I just passed my, got an A on my quiz or an A on my test. And then the next week comes and it's some very difficult stuff and you're completely lost. Or you start maybe dozing off, or you maybe skip a class because you're like, I got this. This is easy. And then everything just hits you by the side of the head. And you're like, holy crap. I don't understand anything that just happened. So you always got to stay alert. Always keep on putting in the work. Don't get overconfident, but keep on putting in the work. And the same thing comes with like struggling. I can't even tell you how many times I had students that were like failing my class, but we had a conversation. I talked with them about what they needed to do to be successful, right? They needed to accept where they're at. They needed to put in the work. They needed to ask questions. And then they have ended up getting A's. So don't take any peaks or troughs like over, like that's how your life is going to be for the rest of the year. Continuously be putting in the work, continuously getting help, continue asking questions. I think that is the best advice I can give you for the upcoming semester. And I hope wish you the best of luck. I have 2 days before my final, and I've been working on other projects. I haven't even had time to study for my pre-calc honors final. It is a Scantron with 60 questions. What do you recommend? C. Just fill in everything C. I'm joking. Don't fill in everything C. I think what you need to understand is the Pareto principle, right? That 80% of the content is going to, or what? Crap! Now I can't even remember. Pareto content. 80% is going to come from 20%. 80% of the content is going to come from 20. Oh my God, I can't even. Now my brain. I've been doing these lives. Now I sound like an idiot. This is what happens when you talk for like an hour on those. But don't try to memorize everything you need to know. You have 2 days. So you're in cram session, right? You're legit going to be cramming for your test. Do not try to cram everything. Focus on the most important topics, concepts, and problems that you know. Yeah, 20% that you're going to show is, or 20%, top 20%. I gotta reread it and think about it through my head. Or counts for 80% results. Yes, 20% of things account for 80% of the results, and that's, yes. I'm just trying to think about how I want to say it in terms of what you're looking for in your test. The main thing that I want you to think about is like, think about that, the top 20%. Think about the most important concepts. Don't try to go through everything. You don't have time. It's just reality. You don't have time to cover everything. So focus on that top 20% of the stuff, the problems, the concepts, the information, the quizzes that you're like, this showed up on my tests, my quizzes, everything else. Like these are the most important. If you have something that's like super confusing, don't even waste your time. You're going to get it wrong. You just cut it as a loss. You don't have time to cover everything. Focus on the most important concepts. And I would say like that top, as we say in the prayer conference, like the top 20% that you're going to see, and focus on that time, focus on that information. It still need to be put in a lot of work. And it's not just be like, all right, now I'm just going to study for an hour because I'm just going to focus on 20%. No, you still need to put in quite a bit of studying. But just don't overwhelm yourself thinking that you need to, or that you're going to be able to study for everything. It's just not going to work out that way. But best of luck. All right. Any advice for high school freshmen? Yeah, meet a lot of people. Have fun. Don't, no matter what happens, don't feel like that's going to be a precursor for the rest of your life. You're very young. You get a lot of ahead of you. Try different things. Try things that you wouldn't normally always feel like you would do. Try like different things to get out of your comfort zone, and absorb everything. Put in a lot of work, and little things that you do over time for a long period of time are going to compound. So save money, build skills, and I think just try different things, get out of your comfort zone, and have fun. All right, let's get into some math questions. All right, can you explain it step by step? So I got to rewrite this out. I got to see x minus 1 minus 6. Minus 6? And that's an x. Gotta see that. Let's see if I can get your guys' questions. I'm trying to pull it up here. Hold on. Could you explain the difference quotient? my brain is so fried right now. If you submit one in there, I'm not sure if I'll be able to go on a live stream. It's been a while since I taught calculus, and so I'm not sure if I can um, give you an example or get my instruction best done from there. But if you submit it to Brian, if you submit it to the link above, I'll make sure once I regroup myself, I can probably make a video on for you. Dan, your problem's not showing up as factorable, so I'm not sure. That example that you had was not showing up as factorable, so I'm not sure what you were looking for on this. I've got some questions. Okay. All right, what was the question you sent me? You say, just want to clarify that if you're given a side angle side triangle to solve, is there a chance for a second triangle to be formed? I know you start off with law of cosines, and then ideally you could use law of cosines again. But if you were to use law of sines afterwards, you need to be careful and use it to solve for the acute angle. So my question is that if you were to solve for the bigger angle first, and that angle were still to work in a second triangle, is that incorrect, or would you actually work in the second triangle? I have an example attached. Okay, so let's go and look at your example. Oh, dang it. Okay. All right, so let's pull this up. It's been a while since I talked to this, so I'm trying to remember the way that I approach this. All right. Oh, do I have my calculator with me? Dang it, there you are. All right, so you sent me a question. All right, so let's go and take a look. So I always like to draw the triangles. I always like to draw them the exact same way when I'm doing a problem like this. So let's see, let's call this angle A. And then we'll have A equals 5. Well, how am I working with a mouse? So weird. Okay, so A equals 5. We'll call this one B. And therefore B equals a 7. And this one's going to be C. And we'll call that 42 degrees. Okay, so, and this is little c. So you are correct. You need to use the law of cosines here. We can't use the law of sines, right? And so let's just actually go and figure this out. Let's actually work through this. So remind me of, let's see, the formula here. Let's see if I can remember off the top of my head. It's been like a long time. So c squared equals, let's do a squared plus b squared minus a 2ab times the cosine of c. Can somebody give me a thumbs up and confirm that with me? Before I actually start doing the work. Oh, I got it. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. Bam. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. Hold on. I got to get my... All right. got it. Square root of C. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Screw it. Yeah, you could do it that way too. Oh yeah, C squared. Sorry. There you go. All right, so I'm just gonna do it this way. So we have a 5 squared plus B squared. Let's see, that's 10, so that's going to be 70. You queen, we're doing good. C squared. Remember that is a C squared. Don't forget that. All right, so therefore I'm just going to do, battery's low, don't die on me. All right, so I have a cosine of 42 degrees times 70. All right, and then I have 25 plus 45, which is a 74, minus a 52 point blah, blah, blah. All right, so, and that's going to be a 21.97, dot, dot, dot. Let's take the square root of that, and C is going to equal, let's truncate it to the 100th, so therefore that's going to be a 4.688. All right, so that is going to be my side length C. Okay, and so your question was, yes, from here you can obviously always do the law of cosines again to find either A or B. Now the other question is, let me go back and look forward to your question that you said. But if I were to use law of cosines afterwards, you need to be careful and use it to solve for the acute angle. So that no, you want to be able to use law of sines to solve for the largest angle that would be. The reason being is when you do the law of sines is always going to give you the acute angle. It's never going to give you the obtuse angle. It's always going to give you the acute angle. So if you had, and type in the comments if I'm not making sense, but so like the ambiguous case, like here you have that, right? So you could either have option number 1 or option number 2. It's either going to be the acute angle or the obtuse angle. However, because your calculator is programmed for when we're looking at our calculator and you're using inverse sine, it's only going to give you that angle that's in that first quadrant, right? That is how your calculator is programmed to only give you sine inverse, only give you an angle in that sine inverse that's going to be in that first quadrant from there. It's never going to give you any obtuse angles outside of over here. Okay. It's only going to give you the inside of this restriction. So the reason why you want to use the largest angle is because whatever the acute angle is, so here you can see A is a larger side length than B is going to be a larger angle than A because B has a longer side. So therefore, this is going to be the angle that I would want to solve for. Because if this is already a larger side, then I know that I cannot have that this angle, here, put it this way. If let's say I go ahead and solve for A because A is smaller than B. I don't have enough information right now to know if I have if I have two triangles or not. So what happens is, what if my what if this is 5 and then this side length is, oh no, sorry, that's still 5. Let me do it this way. Oh, dang it. Let me represent it like this. What if the angle was like this? Okay, so it could either be 7, or if it was the ambiguous case, it could be 5 from that side length. Or the obtuse angle would be larger. No, that'd be different. For that be 7 or larger. If it was obtuse, it'd be larger. Yes, sorry, crap. My bad. I reverse wrote that wrong. Probably botching this explanation. So no, you're doing 5. Duh. Okay, sorry. So this length for if this was the shorter of the two lengths, then that would be, how am I confusing myself? 5 onto the 6th. Or if it would be larger, then your missing angle would be from there. Your third angle would be, we always taught the always using the acute angle, because, and I'm sorry, always finding the largest side is the one that you're going to want to do. But now my brain is fried, and so my justification or my reasoning is not making too much sense. No, but so that's my point that I'm making, is you always want to solve for the larger of the two sides, because here, put it to this way. Oh, I see what okay. Think about it this way, is if you have an obtuse angle, the side, I see what you're saying, and now you're if you go ahead and solve for B, you're obtuse. If you were to go and do, if this was a 2-angle process, well, that would never make sense. Yes, that's going to be to find the other thing. I think you want to solve for the largest side when you're given side, side, side. Yes, that is true. But now in this case, if you're looking for, and so you're saying find for the smallest side or the smallest angle? Dang it. I can't remember. This is what sucks about not being back in the teacher inside the classroom. I haven't gone through these problems in like over 2 years, so I'm trying to back to remember. And it's a good question. It should be something I should remember off the top of my head, but I guess I need to go back to you guys submitting questions so I can go back and refresh things. Because I just don't recall off the top. So that's going to be 4-6. So if you do, all right, I don't care about the live stream. I'm just going to go to the largest angle. Yes. Well, the largest angle, largest side, right? For side, side, side. That's what you always want to do. Because you're not going to have any larger side than that, right? If you do have the when you're doing it with side, 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 when you're doing it for side, 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 that your obtuse angle can never be, you're never going to have more of a larger angle like an obtuse angle from on there. And so here, it's the visualizing that I got to go back and through. So my problem with this is I would still do it as my B, because the point that the thing I think is confusing me is just how my diagram looks. But again, if you think about it, if you're going to look at this ambiguous case, right? If B was having 2 options, right? And this was the acute angle, and then there was a larger angle, or possible, an obtuse angle, then that's going to be, you always want to start with that larger thing. I'm saying, like, you wouldn't want to solve for the smaller of the two using just in case B is obtuse. Yeah, I was saying small for the smaller of the, you want to solve for the larger of the two. Yeah, and that's the exact same thing I'm saying. Are we not? Are we agreeing on saying the exact same thing? You want to solve for B, not A, because assume A does have an obtuse angle, then the small side A could be 5 or 6, right? The obtuse side would make it 6 and the acute would be A. But if you're doing B, that is the largest side. All right, I think a little bit more clarity is coming through me. You can't have any larger, like there's no other obtuse angle that would work, from on there. Like your A, in this case, if you had like how this angle side works, you're not going to have an obtuse angle, because then if you had an obtuse angle for A, it would have to be larger than this angle, right? So if you solve for A, and let's say you have an obtuse angle, then it cannot be larger than the B over the 7 in this case, because A obviously is 5 over 7. So A could never be obtuse. And I think that's maybe what you were referring to, is why you'd want to solve for A, because A is never going to be obtuse because it's never going to be larger than B. Whereas B could be obtuse. You actually don't have enough information. That makes sense, actually, now that I'm talking my way through it. So confirm the error if that makes sense, because A has to be small. It has to be smaller than B, right? A has to be smaller than B. So therefore, the ambiguous situation does not make sense, because if A was obtuse, then it would be larger than B. That makes sense to me. And I don't know why, just talking my way through it. I don't recall explaining it that way when I was in the classroom. So sorry, it took me a little bit longer. So I'm going to have to go back in and just review it. But the way that you understand it, the way that you mention it in your things makes sense on that one. A has to be the smallest angle. And maybe I did. I just totally forgot. I don't know. It's been years. So A, we know, is smaller than B. So therefore, the ambiguous case makes absolutely no sense, right? Because if A was obtuse, it would have to be bigger than B. So yes, I would say then you are correct. Okay, cool. Glad we're on the same page. Yeah, Theon, your question is not saying income and infactorable. All right. I would have to go back and look at those from on there. Sorry, Theon. I would need to go back and review that stuff. What the heck? That's a huge. Abdivnath Rajesh. I would use a calculator. I don't know how I would do that algebraically. That's a crazy problem. But maybe I'll look into that. But wow. Yeah, I don't have experience with doing that algebraically. Kenzie, I'm in IB Math A. I stress out my exams. I end up doing the dumbest mistakes. It's crazy. What can I do to fix it? My math skills themselves are strong, but I make the most basic mistakes. Practice. You got to do more practice. The more practice you do, the more refined you're going to be with doing things on your test. So I would just say, focus on putting in more work in preparation for the test and quizzes. Try to relax. Try to slow down. That will help your mistakes. But yeah, it takes sometimes over practice, doing more examples, doing more practice than you think is necessary. Okay. The answer for the question below is, I don't really understand the steps on how I'll solve these types of questions. Can you help me? So then I'll have to go and take a look. I haven't, I see, maybe I wrote it, maybe I typed it in looking into it. Maybe I typed it in wrong. So yeah, I'm not familiar with factoring the trinomial times a trinomial, so I'll probably make a video on it, and then I can probably do it from there. But it's not something I can cover on the live streams. Apologize for that. I can solve the triggered ing, not only problem but multiple. I get stuck and go even further. Double angle. I'll need to work that one out. I'm not going to go through this on the live stream. Sorry. All right. And yeah, your Arif, now that you're saying it, it makes complete sense. My brain was just kind of clouded. Oh, it's just like the other one that you did. What was the question I got wrong even yesterday on last? Like it made literally once I got off the live stream, whatever we were talking about last time on whatever problem you submitted, I made, oh yeah, like that cotangent. I was like, what the heck was I thinking? Like, yeah, that made complete sense. I was like, how did I miss that? It's just live streams. It's like this teaching for standing up in front of the classroom. I don't know where I put that. Yeah, that made like complete sense. I was like, yeah, right here. I'm like, what the heck? We were talking about this last time. Like, yeah, tangent times cotangent is 1. So that's 1 minus. So apologies to whoever had this question submitted. Just totally balled it. Yeah, it's going to be 1 minus a 3 tan of x equals 0. And then subtract 1, divide by 3, take the square root. So it's going to be tangent of x equals square root of 3 over 3, right? Minus, divide, yep. And then he got 2 answers. Yeah, because you're going to have 2 restrictions from on there. So in this problem, square root of 3 over 3, I even forget these over 3. Square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. No, it's going to be the 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. So that's going to be y over x. So when that x is, so that's going to be a pi over 6, right? X over y, y over x, x is square root of 3 over 2 for y. I believe so. And then it's also going to be a 7 pi over 6. There you go. Sorry, person who sent that in that question that I bombed yesterday. And ARF gave me the answer right at the end. I'm like, oh my God, how did I spend all this time doing all this crap? And I didn't even see that. Thank you so much for that. Sorry, LO. Yeah, just for clarification, you'd want to solve for an angle A using law of sines because it's the smaller of the 2 remaining angles. Exactly. And you can't have the obtuse because if you had the obtuse angle, it'd be larger than B, which would make no sense. So you're absolutely correct. I just got to get myself primed up for my math explanations. But yeah, you're absolutely correct on that. And that's why maybe I need to do more of these live streams, more of this teaching. So therefore I can get back into the groove and not just do focused on my videos. All right. Oh, you didn't send in a question, James. Huh. Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. Dr. Good evening. Can you recap differential rules of exponential functions and logarithm functions? No, sorry. It's been way too long. Can you do one where I have to find the period I submitted? I didn't see you submit it. Oh, I did see you submit it. Dang it. That wasn't you. All right, Theon, I'm going to have to look at your questions. They're just going to take me a little bit longer to review them rather than going on the live stream. Well, thank you so much, Skywalker. I love it. Any random question? You play video games? I did. I actually just got a Polycade, which is actually really, really cool. I got it on Kickstarter. And so I'm just downloading some games. So before I sign off, if you love any old arcade games that are your favorites, put them down in the chat. I will check these after the live streams because I do got to go. It's past my time. But if you have any favorite arcade games that I can download on my Polycade and give a shot, then let me know down below. I'll go and take a look. And for those of you guys that have exams this week, I wish you guys the best of luck. I'll probably take off the next couple of weeks just because I know a lot of students don't have math questions over winter break, but I look forward to seeing you guys back into the new school year. So best of luck, everyone. Hope you have a good break, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.